The galaxy was ablaze. Veshar, a Fedoran scout in the Alliance of Light, crouched low within the jagged ruins of a desolate world known as Prometheus 9. Massive, twisted spires of forgotten architecture rose around her, remnants of a species who had vanished long before Fedorans had even learned to harness fire. Now, these ruins provided her only shelter. Behind her, the inky darkness of the Void Invaders spilled over the sky, a tide of destruction eating away at star systems like rot. She touched the mark on her wrist, a pulsing blue symbol of her race's last-ditch allegiance to the Alliance of Light. Fedorans, Valerian battle pilots, Elvarian mystics, and more than a dozen other species had united to face the threat looming from beyond the galactic rim. The Void forces were monstrous, a blend of strange flesh and malevolent metal that moved in shadowy waves, seemingly immune to the weapons of the galaxy's mightiest fleets. Veshar's platoon, initially hundreds strong, had dwindled to just a handful of fighters, and now, they huddled, waiting, in the heart of an ancient ruin they barely understood. The ruin spoke of another time, another people, so advanced they could shape entire worlds, bend the stars, and seemingly vanish without a trace. This, they knew, was a human world, a former colony of that ancient species which had somehow vanished 6,000 years ago, leaving only fragments of their technology scattered across the galaxy. Veshar scanned the skies. Her antennae flicked, catching the silent shadows of enemy ships passing overhead. She gestured for silence, glancing at her comrades, all from different races, all united in desperation. The ground trembled as the Void soldiers drew closer. They were out of options. If the enemy found them here, it would be the end. But just as Veshar prepared herself for their final stand, something extraordinary happened. The ground shuddered with new intensity, and a deep hum reverberated through the ruins, shaking loose dust and rubble. The old human structures, dead and silent for eons, seemed to pulse, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. The ruins of Prometheus 9 sprawled across the desolate landscape, an eerie fusion of monumental beauty and decay. Jagged, sky-piercing spires jutted out of the dusty ground like the fingers of a skeletal giant, their surfaces worn by millennia of relentless winds and radiation storms. Some of these structures leaned at impossible angles, as though defying gravity, held up by the last stubborn vestiges of ancient technology embedded deep within. The architecture spoke of another age, an age when beings wielded the power to reshape planets as easily as clay. Faint, delicate lines of circuitry ran across the surfaces of the stone-like material, lines that once glowed brightly, now only visible as faint etchings against the fading daylight. The main plaza where Veshar and her squad had taken cover was littered with the remnants of towering statues, some depicting faceless humanoid figures in sleek, flowing robes. Others were intricately carved representations of objects that none in the Alliance of Light could identify, complex instruments and weaponry, perhaps, designed with geometries that defied current understanding. The symbols etched into the bases of these statues were indecipherable, an alien language made up of interlocking spirals, sharp triangles, and angular lines, their patterns hinting at a civilization as intricate as it was unfathomable. Veshar's gaze traveled upwards, tracing the outlines of vast domes that had once crowned this ancient city. One dome, partially collapsed, revealed a glimpse of its intricate inner framework, like a web spun by a cosmic spider. Flickering shadows danced across it as the Void forces moved in the skies above, their presence casting a malevolent pallor over the once grand structures. In the center of the plaza stood a massive, arched gateway, its dark material seeming to absorb rather than reflect light. It was adorned with a massive, spiraling design that pulsed with a faint, almost undetectable glow. Time and decay had worn away much of the gateway's ornamentation, but Veshar could still make out the faint outlines of what might have been eyes or symbols of watchfulness engraved into its surface. This gateway seemed to be a threshold, a final barrier that separated the main city from something beyond, a sanctuary, or perhaps a command center. Clusters of strange, angular flora had taken root in the cracks between stone and metal, vines that seemed to pulse with faint phosphorescent hues in shades of blue and green. They curled around broken machinery and crumbling walls, reclaiming the ruins, drawing life from the remnants of human technology. Occasionally, a soft hum emanated from the flora, a gentle, rhythmic pulse that mimicked the heartbeat of some sleeping entity. The alien soldiers could only guess if this flora was indigenous to Prometheus 9 or had evolved alongside whatever lingering energy lay dormant here. Shattered pillars lay strewn about, fragments of something once greater. Veshar noticed the surfaces were not cracked as ordinary stone would be, but split in precise, smooth lines, as though cut by some impossibly sharp tool. Everything about this place defied the natural process of decay, hinting at technological wonders that kept these structures standing despite their age and abandonment. When the ground shuddered, the ruins responded with a strange resonance. Dust and sand shifted, revealing hidden patterns in the floors, patterns that seemed to pulse with a faint, inner luminescence. These lines ran in angular designs throughout the plaza, connecting the broken statues, pillars, and even the walls, which glimmered faintly as if they recognized the incoming threat. It was as if the ruins themselves were stirring to life, sensing an intrusion and preparing to defend whatever secrets lay within. As the hum intensified, parts of the city that had lain silent for ages suddenly burst into vibrant, electric life. Pillars along the walls emitted beams of blue light, casting a defensive grid around the entire area. The previously inert statues vibrated as invisible forces moved through them, filling the air with a powerful, ancient energy. These ruins, abandoned and silent for millennia, had been built to be more than a city, they had been designed as a fortress. And then, as the defensive grid completed its circuit, the ground in front of the gateway shimmered with a brilliant flash. Humanoid figures began to materialize from the air, their forms slowly solidifying into sleek, metallic warriors, human constructs, their bodies streamlined and formidable, weapons in hand, as if they had just stepped out of another era. The grid lines on the floor pulsed in unison with the robots' movements, each step and gesture in perfect synchronization with the heartbeat of the ancient technology. Veshar's breath caught in her throat as the humanoid constructs surveyed their surroundings with calculated precision. In their gleaming visors, the reflection of the ruined symbols glowed like ancient runes brought to life. The constructs ignored Veshar's platoon, their gazes fixed upon the dark swarm of void soldiers descending upon the city. And in that moment, the ruins were no longer silent or broken, they were awake, alive, and ready for war. The first volley of fire was nothing short of overwhelming. Massive gun batteries rose from concealed turrets in the walls, forming a perimeter that stretched as far as Veshar could see. Energy pulses shot out from the guns with a deafening roar, striking the void forces in blinding blasts of light that left the air thick with scorched particles. As void ships tried to dive and evade, more batteries emerged from the hidden walls, targeting them with deadly accuracy. The constructs, with uncanny precision, moved forward in perfect formation, their weaponry far beyond anything Veshar had encountered in the Alliance of Light. Their guns crackled with energy, firing in synchronized bursts that tore through void armor as though it were made of paper. Some of the constructs wielded long, staff-like weapons that emitted beams of intense energy, slicing through multiple enemies with a single strike. The power of this ancient defense system was incomprehensible, its might palpable in every blast, every searing line of fire. It was as though humanity had poured the essence of their civilization into these machines, making them warriors, guardians, protectors even in their absence. The void soldiers, once an indomitable force, were now reduced to debris and ash, shattered under the wrath of an enemy they had never anticipated. The alien soldiers watched in stunned silence, their own weapons useless compared to the arsenal at humanity's command. As the void forces lay defeated, a low hum filled the ruins once more, a final signal as the constructs returned to their silent vigil, the grid of light fading back into the stone. The ruins of Prometheus 9 returned to stillness. When the dust settled, the alien soldiers looked at each other, mouths agape. What was that?" breathed Kolath, a Valerian with shimmering green scales. Veshar was silent, her gaze fixed on the towering machines and fortress-like walls that had sprung to life around them. She knew only one thing for certain: whatever humanity had been, whatever they had created, their legacy was not only alive, it was watching. In the center of the Alliance Council chamber, a growing buzz of conversation filled the air as each faction deliberated. The discovery at Prometheus of 9 had shaken their assumptions to the core, and for the first time in years, they dared to believe that hope lay within reach. But with that hope came unease, and more questions than answers. Minister C.H. Vran, the towering, tentacled Taurian who had first voiced the report on Prometheus 9, raised his voice above the din. His tendrils flexed with urgency, his golden eyes narrowing. "We speak of humanity as though they were benevolent custodians. But let us not forget, these titans have enforced their exile upon themselves. Why did they abandon the galaxy? What guarantee do we have that they would choose to aid us rather than condemn us? The room fell silent. Several other leaders nodded, grim expressions darkening their features. From across the chamber, Eulina, a Saurian general with scales the color of rusted metal, leaned forward, his voice low and skeptical. The Titans patrol the Sol system with unyielding precision, annihilating anything that even remotely approaches. Humanity may have built fortresses and defensive marvels, but to what end? To protect the galaxy? Or to guard something more sinister? Something that perhaps even they feared? Zalan, the Elvarian mystic who had already expressed his hope that humanity's technology might save them, rose to defend the possibility of a brighter truth. General Eulina, Minister C.H. Vran, he began, his voice resonating like a soft melody. The human defense systems activated at the mere sight of the void creatures. They did not attack us, nor did they deter us. They sheltered our people and protected us as if our safety was part of their original design. The mystic's words seemed to weigh heavily on the council. Could humanity have designed its technology to distinguish friend from foe even across millennia? But just as quickly, Rena, a slender, sharp-witted diplomat from the Asari race, whose people were known for their expertise in bioengineering and technological fusion, spoke up. And yet, Zalan, the Void Forces are a recent threat. There is no record of them in any galactic archive, no ancient warnings, no legends. It is as though they simply emerged from the void itself. Are we so certain that humanity anticipated such a specific threat? Veshar, who had witnessed the human defenses firsthand, took a step forward, her voice calm yet resolute. The defenses of Prometheus Ernine may have been programmed to recognize any intrusion. But there is something more, a latent intelligence. We saw technology that didn't just activate, it acted. The defenses engaged with precision and tactics that would be impossible without some form of conscious decision-making. Kolath, a Valyrian battle pilot who had fought alongside Veshar and survived the encounter, chimed in from his place beside her. We cannot overlook the fact that the Titans have never been deactivated, not once in the last 6 millennia. This level of isolation, locking an entire system, forbidding access even to other human worlds, suggests caution. Humanity has sealed themselves away not from fear of the galaxy, but perhaps to protect something far greater. The council grew uneasy at Kolath's suggestion. If humanity truly were hiding something of immense value or power in their home system, what would happen if it were to be unleashed? C.H. Vran's voice cut through the murmurs. Consider the power wielded by these Titan-class ships. What we know of them is limited to the devastation they have wrought upon explorers, scavengers, even our own early Recon fleets. Yet, their strength is unrivaled, far surpassing anything our fleets could challenge. If we were to even attempt an approach, I fear we would stand little chance. Veshar took a deep breath and turned her gaze to the assembled leaders. Minister, what we do know, however, is that those same defenses did not attack us at Prometheus 9. Perhaps there is more to the Titans' vigilance. Perhaps their purpose is not simply to destroy, but to protect Earth and its secrets from the unworthy. It is conceivable that these AI ships possess a form of discernment, determining who may approach and who may not. A murmur of agreement began to ripple through a portion of the council, but Eulina's sharp voice quickly silenced it. And yet, that is speculation, Veshar. What if the Titans are keeping something dangerous contained? Or worse, what if these defenses are still actively guarding an army of humans waiting to awaken? We have only fragments of knowledge, and we risk our lives if we place faith in what we do not understand. C.H. Vran's expression was thoughtful, his tentacles twitching with uncertainty. Perhaps Eulina has a point. We may be blindly walking into a hornet's nest. There is an alternative: we could redirect our resources to fortifying against the Void Forces directly. We have survived this long. There is no proof that humanity's technology holds the answer. At this, Zalan's expression darkened. Minister C.H. Vran, our fleets are breaking against the Void Forces like sand against a tidal wave. Every year, we lose more systems to the dark. We do not even understand the void forces themselves, yet here we have technology that, for the first time, has proven to be an effective countermeasure. To turn away from such an opportunity would be an act of willful blindness. The chamber swayed, indecision heavy in the air. For all their power, the Alliance of Light was grasping at straws, aware that they were nearing the end of their resources and their hope. Renner's voice was soft but cutting. And if we reach Earth, what then? How do we even know humanity will awaken to save us? What if, when we finally uncover their secrets, we find that they abandoned the galaxy for selfish reasons, or out of some deeper agenda? A pall settled over the room. The leaders had always spoken of humanity as a myth, an ancient relic of a forgotten time. But to actively seek them out, to risk unlocking the very core of their power, this went against every cautious instinct they had. Kolath crossed his arms, his scales shimmering as he leaned forward. What if humanity simply knew this day would come? What if they vanished so that their strength could survive long enough to aid us when we needed them most? Zalan, encouraged, added, humanity has left pieces of their legacy open to us. This may be a sign. A test, if you will. What if, by proving ourselves worthy, we gain allies instead of the dread or ruin you all seem to fear? For a moment, there was silence as his words sank in. At last, C.H. Vran spoke, his voice calm but solemn. Then, if this is a test, we must be prepared for its challenges. I propose a compromise. We gather an elite expedition team to explore these human relics across the galaxy. If this expedition yields enough understanding of human technology, we may then consider an approach to the Sol system. But know that the Titans are an insurmountable obstacle for any fleet we currently command. If they do not deem us worthy, none of us will return. The Council took in his words with a mixture of relief and unease, aware that this path, though dangerous, offered their only glimpse of hope. The decision was made. An elite team would be sent across the galaxy, scouring the remains of humanity's empire for insights into their technology, their intentions, and their potential to be allies or foes. Only with sufficient understanding of human intentions and their hidden defenses would they even attempt to breach the Sol system. As the Council adjourned, Veshar stood in the center of the quieting chamber, feeling the weight of the galaxy's hopes pressing down upon her. She knew the risks they faced, the uncertain nature of humanity's legacy, but she could not deny the sense of purpose that had stirred within her ever since that day on Prometheus 9. If the Titans were a test, then the Alliance would prove worthy. They had to, for the galaxy's survival depended on it. The expedition launched within days, its small but meticulously selected crew equipped with advanced Alliance technology and a collection of linguistic and technical codes the Council had gleaned from the human ruins on Prometheus 9. Veshar led the team, flanked by Kolath, the battle-tested Valerian, Zalan, the enigmatic Elvarian mystic, and a diverse group of scientists, historians, and soldiers chosen from across the galaxy. Each member brought unique expertise in their field: bioengineering, xenolinguistics, energy manipulation, all essential for uncovering the secrets of humanity's lost empire. Their first destination was Aegis 5, a scorched and barren world circling a red dwarf star in the outer reaches of the Aelios cluster. As the team's ship descended through turbulent atmospheres layered with ash and electromagnetic storms, they caught their first glimpse of the facility, a sprawling network of structures connected by vast bridges, half buried in a shifting sea of ash dunes. The facility's materials were unlike anything in their databanks, an alloy that pulsed faintly with energy and seemed to absorb their sensors' probing signals, creating an eerie silence on their screens. Once they managed to land and stabilize their equipment, they made their way inside the compound, their path illuminated by what seemed to be dormant lights in the walls, flickering weakly to life as they approached. The facility appeared empty, yet every corner they turned seemed to echo with the hum of something ancient, a soft, almost imperceptible frequency that filled the air like a presence waiting just beyond reach. The floors were adorned with patterns of overlapping circles, which pulsed faintly with each step they took, guiding them deeper into the heart of the facility. There, they encountered an AI unlike any they had ever seen. Embedded in a vast, diamond-like crystalline structure that floated in the center of a cavernous hall, the AI observed them through prismatic lights flickering across its facets, analyzing and, it seemed, appraising them. The crystalline core emitted a low, resonant hum that vibrated through the floor and walls, sending faint ripples through the patterns on the ground. When they finally interfaced with the AI, it revealed capabilities that defied their expectations. It could manipulate gravity itself, bending it to create floating platforms and energy shields with ease. Veshar and her team watched, fascinated, as it projected vast barriers in the air, shimmering like walls of liquid light, and conjured weapon systems that hummed with destructive potential. The AI was limited in its responses, its primary purpose locked into a defensive protocol, yet it could answer specific questions. One question, however, seemed to stir something deeper within it. When Zalan asked if the humans had foreseen the void's arrival, the Ari's crystalline lights dimmed briefly before it answered. The Nightborn, it intoned in a reverberant voice. A force beyond stars. Known by humanity. Known by vigilance. The term unsettled the team, and more questions began to form as they tried to extract more answers from the AI. Yet beyond these limited responses, the AI remained silent, locked into its unyielding purpose as a defender. It could bend the rules of physics, but it would not speak of humanity's decision to abandon this facility, nor why it still held silent vigil in a galaxy they no longer inhabited. Even as they departed Aegis 5, the question lingered heavily in their minds: what, or who, were the Nightborn? And why had humanity created defenses seemingly designed with them in mind? Their next journey took them to Lyra 12, a desolate planet locked in eternal twilight, its sun a faint ember on the horizon. The landscape was an expanse of icy cliffs and shimmering plains, broken only by a single towering structure that rose like an enormous spire in the distance. This was the Vault, an ancient repository the Council's historians suspected might contain clues to humanity's cosmic ambitions. The air was thin and frigid, laced with trace elements of xenon that gave the landscape an unnatural, ghostly blue hue. Inside the vault, they were greeted by an eerie silence, punctuated only by the faint hum of dormant machinery. The structure's walls were lined with crystalline conduits that glowed faintly, illuminating rows upon rows of massive crystalline pillars that stretched into the shadows above. These were the records, vast data banks encoded into lattices of crystal, a storage medium that seemed capable of holding not just information, but entire worlds. Using a translator drone, Zalan interfaced with the data and began to parse the crystal records. What they found was staggering: a map, not only of the galaxy, but of systems beyond the reach of current Alliance technology. There were star clusters far outside the galaxy's rim, planets and systems humanity had evidently catalogued. One crystalline record even showed a path to another galaxy altogether, suggesting that humanity had the capability, perhaps even the ambition, to explore beyond their own star cluster. The realization was humbling: humanity had been far more than a technological marvel. They had been explorers, reaching beyond the known galaxy, seeking knowledge and resources across the void. Yet this knowledge also raised troubling questions. If humanity had been aware of the void's existence, why had they not left warnings? Why had they not left instructions or allies in place to guard against it? Had they believed the galaxy was safe without them, or had they underestimated the threat that now encroached upon the Alliance's home? Each discovery deepened the team's understanding of humanity's advanced capabilities, but it also highlighted the gaps in their knowledge, the mysteries that defied simple explanation. Despite finding treasures of unimaginable power and insight, there was still no clear answer to the central question that gnawed at each of them: why had humanity left these worlds behind? And why had they chosen to disappear entirely? Weeks passed, and as their journey continued, Veshar's team grew accustomed to uncovering these wonders, while at the same time feeling a growing sense of urgency. They were racing against the clock, gathering fragments of humanity's power, hoping these would be enough to help them turn the tide against the void. But each new artifact they uncovered only brought them closer to the inevitable truth: their only true hope lay in reaching Earth, the heart of the Sol system, where humanity's ultimate purpose might still be hidden. Then, while deep in the void between systems, an unexpected transmission broke through their communications, an ancient signal, encrypted with layers of security protocols that bore the unmistakable signature of human technology. The transmission took hours to decode, and as each layer unlocked, anticipation grew within the crew. They gathered around, waiting as Veshar keyed in the final encryption code. When the message at last revealed itself, its words were clear, almost haunting. To those who seek to understand, our vigilance endures. If you reach the heart of soul, you will know the truth. Prove yourselves worthy, and earth shall be revealed. The words ignited a wave of excitement and anxiety through the crew. For so long, the Sol system had been shrouded in mystery, and every attempt to breach it had ended in failure. The Titan-class sentries that guarded Earth's borders were notorious, powerful beyond comprehension, yet here was a message that hinted at a path through. It did not promise safety or victory, but it offered something even more valuable, a chance to know. Veshar read the message again, feeling its weight as though it were a directive aimed solely at her. Prove yourselves worthy. Those words hinted at an ancient purpose, a hidden test woven into the AI Guardian's mission. Earth was the key, and humanity had left this challenge, a trial, for those who dared to follow in their footsteps. But what did it mean to prove themselves worthy? And who or what would judge them? Determination hardened within Veshar and her team. They had been granted a rare opportunity, a chance to reach the one place in the galaxy that might contain the answers they needed. And so, with their resolve ignited anew, the team charted their course toward the Sol system, their mind set on facing whatever test the Titans demanded. Arriving at the edge of the Sol system, Veshar and her team felt a wave of awe and trepidation as they gazed upon the Titan-class ships. These colossal vessels, each one a fortress the size of a small moon, drifted in a perfectly aligned ring around the system's borders, their exteriors dark and impenetrable, with a shimmering aura that distorted the stars beyond them. Silhouetted against the distant glow of Sol, these ships exuded an ominous, silent vigilance, as though they were extensions of the very stars they guarded. Veshar felt as if the Titans were not just ships, but embodiments of an ancient will, bound to defend humanity's cradle. Sensors on their ship pulsed faintly as they scanned the Titans, feeding back distorted readings. The technology within these ancient guardians was beyond even the Alliance's comprehension, powerful enough to shield the entire Sol system from intruders. No energy signatures were visible, their weapons were hidden, their power sources unknown, but Veshar sensed an immense, dormant force within each Titan, waiting for the slightest provocation. Then, as if responding to the unspoken scrutiny, a deep voice boomed through the ship's comms, resonating with a weight that filled the cabin like a physical presence. The voice was neither harsh nor welcoming, it was indifferent, cold, and authoritative. Identify. Purpose. A tremor ran through Veshar, but she held her ground. She stepped toward the console, summoning every bit of courage she had. "We are emissaries of the Alliance of Light," she said, her voice steady despite the heavy silence that followed. "We seek knowledge of humanity's power. We seek to protect the galaxy from the void." The silence lengthened, thick with tension. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, wondering if the Titans would simply destroy them as they had so many before. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the voice returned, its tone as cold and absolute as before. "Humanity's strength is not for the unworthy. Prove your resolve. Survive the test." The words had barely registered when the crew felt a sharp, disorienting pull as their ship's surroundings dissolved into a wash of light. Their bodies were frozen in place, held by an unseen force as their vision blurred, then cleared, and they found themselves in a completely new environment, a holographic simulation, but so lifelike that it felt as though they had been transported into another reality. Veshar looked around, taking in the landscape. They stood in an arid, barren valley surrounded by towering cliffs. The ground was cracked and dry, dust swirling as a faint breeze swept across the desolate land. No markers, no guidance, just an endless, hostile terrain that stretched as far as they could see. "Where are we?" Kolath whispered, flexing his claws as he scanned the terrain. His instincts were on high alert, honed from years of combat. But before anyone could respond, a high-pitched whine filled the air, followed by a thunderous impact as explosions erupted from the cliffs, sending waves of dust and debris crashing down. They had no time to think. Automated weapons, turrets, drones, and strange, insect-like machines with lethal precision descended from above, attacking without warning. Veshar and her team were forced into action, dodging bursts of plasma fire as they sprinted for cover. The combat was relentless, the machines adapted to their every move, anticipating tactics with a precision that seemed almost omniscient. The challenge was brutal, testing every bit of skill and teamwork they had honed over their years in the Alliance. The simulation left no room for error, and any lapse was punished with a searing blast or a coordinated assault from the machines. The holographic test forced them to dig deep, moving beyond their limits, coordinating with absolute precision to outmaneuver the AI-controlled machines. Vesha issued quick, strategic orders, directing Kolath to flank the turrets while Zalan cloaked their team in energy shields. They fought with everything they had, but the machines kept coming, wave after wave, their attacks unrelenting. Hours passed in this unending combat, the team battered, but holding strong, pushing themselves to their limits and beyond. Then, just as the final wave of machines fell silent, the landscape shifted. The valley faded, replaced by a gleaming room filled with intricate puzzles, machines with pieces that moved in complex rhythms, glowing symbols that defied logical patterns, and glyphs that appeared to shift even as they watched. Each puzzle required both mental acuity and teamwork, challenging them to think beyond the confines of their own knowledge and to trust one another implicitly. Here, Zalan's insights as a mystic came to the forefront, his mind attuned to the faint patterns woven into each puzzle. Vesha found herself relying on Kolath's instincts, his intuitive grasp of spatial relations guiding them through a labyrinthine series of traps. Days passed within the simulation, each task testing a different facet of their abilities, strength, intellect, and finally, character. They faced moral quandaries designed to probe their deepest values, scenarios where the right choice was far from clear. They were placed in virtual environments where their decisions could lead to virtual casualties, forcing them to weigh personal sacrifice against the greater good. In one test, Vesha had to choose whether to abandon one of her own crew members in order to complete the mission and secure a virtual victory, a choice that left her questioning the depths of her own resolve. Exhausted and humbled, they came to the final trial, a simulated version of a ruined world under siege by the Void forces. This time, they were not equipped with weapons but were tasked with leading a virtual civilian population through impossible odds to safety. There was no clear path, no guarantee of victory, only their determination and ingenuity. Vesha felt the weight of the responsibility, every action carrying consequences, each decision impacting lives. She could see the fear and doubt in her team's eyes, but they moved forward, using every lesson they had learned to make it through the harrowing ordeal. At last, the simulation dissolved, and they found themselves back in their ship, their bodies aching and their minds drained. The silence that followed was profound, filled only with the sound of their own ragged breaths. The Titan's voice filled the ship once more, yet this time, there was a subtle shift in tone, a hint of recognition, perhaps even respect. "You have proven yourselves worthy." With that, the Titans moved in perfect synchronization, parting to open a narrow path into the Sol system. The darkness beyond gave way to the glow of distant planets orbiting their sun, and for the first time in recorded history, the path to Earth lay open. As their ship drifted past the Titans, Vesha looked back at those massive, silent sentries, realizing that they were more than machines. These were guardians, waiting for millennia, enforcing a test that could only be passed by those they deemed worthy. Now, with the Titan's blessing, they crossed into the heart of humanity's legacy, knowing that the secrets of the past, and perhaps the fate of the future, awaited them on Earth. Entering the Sol system, Vesha and her team navigated their ship toward Earth, the blue-green jewel of humanity's birthplace, shining like a beacon amidst the blackness of space. As they approached, they began to discern a vast network of dormant stations orbiting the planet, interwoven in intricate patterns that stretched from the atmosphere to high orbit. Each station glowed faintly with soft blue light, its design both elegant and formidable, suggesting both a defensive function and a deep reverence for the world they protected. The stations formed an interconnected lattice, a protective web woven around the planet, while smaller automated satellites drifted along the perimeter. Vesha noted how these dormant sentries moved in gentle synchronization, guided by unseen commands, scanning their ship without hostility. It was clear that the system was poised to defend Earth, but at a level of sophistication that defied comprehension. It was both a welcoming sight and a reminder of the power that lay within humanity's grasp. After receiving a final confirmation from the Titans, Vesha, Kolath, and Zalan readied themselves for descent, boarding a sleek, human-built shuttlecraft that awaited them, seemingly pre-programmed to guide them to Earth's surface. The atmosphere shimmered as they broke through it, descending toward a world that appeared untouched by the passage of time. As they approached land, lush forests and pristine ocean stretched below, interspersed with cities that looked like visions from a bygone era. The cities, though dormant, gleamed with polished metal and glass, towers stretching toward the sky like the fingers of a long-slumbering giant. When they landed and stepped onto the surface, the air felt clean, rich with life. The faint rustling of leaves and distant bird calls reminded them of the natural beauty of the planet, a world preserved in stillness and silence, waiting. Automated pathways lit up beneath their feet, guiding them toward the heart of one of Earth's dormant cities. Streets lined with buildings stood silent yet immaculate, as though humanity had left only moments before. Vegetation encroached on some structures, weaving through cracks in the pavement, but even these signs of life were minimal, managed by the automated maintenance systems that seemed to watch over the cities with gentle precision. As they moved further into the city, they noticed the Guardians, robotic sentinels that drifted along the streets and hovered at the entrances of buildings. These humanoid robots were built in humanity's image, but stylized, their exteriors gleaming with smooth metal and intricate engravings. Their eyes glowed with a faint, steady blue light, tracking Veshar and her companions with silent vigilance. Some carried weapons integrated seamlessly into their frames, while others seemed to be equipped for medical or maintenance tasks. None of the robots approached aggressively, they merely observed, as if to ensure that the visitors posed no threat to the sanctity of this hallowed ground. Following the automated pathway, the team made their way through the heart of the city and into the mountains, where a hidden facility awaited, a monolithic structure embedded within the rock, invisible until they were close. As they entered, the walls hummed with a faint blue glow, and the facility seemed to sense their presence, awakening in response to their arrival. The air was cool, filled with the soft whirring of machines that had been running for countless ages, tending to the facility's intricate workings. At the end of a long corridor, they reached the facility's central chamber, an immense hall bathed in soft blue light. Hundreds of screens lined the walls, each displaying data that scrolled in an orderly rhythm. Veshar's eyes widened as she began to comprehend the scale of what lay before them. In vast cryogenic vaults spanning the depth of the mountain, billions of humans lay in a suspended sleep, their bodies preserved within pods that emitted a faint, pulsing light. The sight was staggering, a hidden civilization, sealed away for eons yet alive and waiting. An AI interface flickered to life before them, its form projected as a hologram, an androgynous figure with serene, human-like features, its eyes emitting the same soft blue light that permeated the facility. The AI's voice was gentle, yet carried a gravitas that silenced any question from the team. "Welcome, emissaries of the Alliance." The AI's gaze settled on each of them, one by one, as if gauging their resolve. "Humanity has not perished. We sleep, in anticipation of the time when we would be needed once more. The void, the Nightborn, was foreseen long ago. Humanity chose preservation, so that our strength would remain intact when the time came to confront this threat." The screens displayed readouts of each sleeping individual, indicators of health and preservation status scrolling in silent streams of data. Veshar's gaze fell on the thousands of rows, each representing a human who had willingly entered stasis to protect the galaxy in a future they could not see. The depth of planning, the sheer scale of this undertaking, was humbling. "But all of you chose this?" Veshar whispered, astonishment softening her voice. The AI nodded, its gaze unwavering. Humanity foresaw the Nightborn as a distant shadow, a threat capable of overwhelming even the strongest forces in the galaxy. Knowing that our influence would one day be required, we made the ultimate choice. Rather than scatter ourselves, we would become the hidden guardians. By conserving our strength, we could wait until the need was absolute. Kolath looked around, all reflected in his reptilian eyes. So, this entire network, these guardians, these cities, they were left as a shield? Precisely. The Titans guard the Sol system to prevent unworthy intruders, while these sentries protect our home. Each city, each system has been left in stasis, designed to respond if our defenses were triggered. When you passed the tests, you confirmed that the galaxy was in peril and in need of our strength. Veshar felt her pulse quicken. The truth was clear now. Humanity's disappearance had never been an abandonment. It had been a choice, an act of self-preservation and preparation, to ensure they would return when their strength was needed most. Every structure, every piece of technology, every dormant city they had encountered was part of a larger strategy, a plan spanning millennia, all to ensure that humanity's power remained undiminished for the day they would fight once more. In the midst of this revelation, Veshar felt her heart swell with a renewed sense of hope and responsibility. Humanity had left the galaxy not in neglect, but in preparation. They had prepared themselves to be a force that could rise from the ashes, a force that could push back against the void that threatened to consume everything. She turned to her team, determination shining in her eyes. Humanity hasn't abandoned us. They have been waiting for the day when we would need them most. The Ari's gaze softened. You have proven yourselves worthy to be the first witnesses of this knowledge. Spread the message to the Alliance. Humanity will awaken, and we will stand together, united against the darkness that threatens all life. As Veshar looked out over the city and the silent ranks of cryogenic pods, she realized the enormity of what lay before them. This wasn't the story of a vanished race, nor of a civilization that had faded into legend. It was the tale of a hidden force, humanity itself, waiting as guardians in slumber, prepared to rise and defend the galaxy when the time was right. And now, that time had come.